This isn't really an song, huh? Welcome to Fantasy Inception, December 3rd, Friday. I am your host, Josh Grossman. I'm going to try to fade this while I'm talking. Welcome. With me, as always, Jeff, Landon. Boys, how are you guys doing?
Good.
What's up, my boys? Yeah.
Good. You guys
There's a lot of boys in there.
Did we already do a post-Thanksgiving? I've lost track. We did, right? No? Yeah, we did? Yeah, we did. The pie? No, was that before Thanksgiving? I don't remember where we are. All right. Well,
that was before Thanksgiving, yes.
That was before. Well, I hope you guys had a good Thanksgiving.
You too.
And happy Hanukkah, Landon. Jeff, happy
you
Hanukkah
too,
to you as
Josh.
Well.
Happy holidays to you, boys.
Yeah. So we are getting closer and closer. It seems like at some point, I think teams are going to start breaking away, but we still have a lot of teams within a game of second, third, and fourth. So it's very exciting. We're going to do Matchup Madness and Pick Six and all that good stuff like we usually do. Before we get to that stuff, though, I wanted to talk about benches and bench strategy with you guys and get your thoughts. Because I think there's different strategies in terms of how you build your bench at the onset when you're drafting throughout the season. And then when we come to this last part, when you're either kind of locked in the playoffs or trying to get into the playoffs. So I wanted to ask you your general approach to the bench at this point, and how does that differ if you are locked in like Jeff, like your team, or if you are, fighting for one of those last places like my team. Landon, since you are neither of the scenarios, do you want to go first?
Sure. Yeah. So what I would do if I were a G-off, just coasting through the league at the moment, the obvious thing, it's about depth. So in G-off's position, like his Jonathan Taylor, I would be rostering Nyheim Hines, I believe, is the backup. For his stud running backs, get their clear handcuffs at this point, just in case they were to go down. Maybe have a solid backup quarterback. Just your starting lineup is pretty much set at this point. So you're just kind of ensuring that if something happens to one of your starters, that they're okay. And also keep looking at defenses and looking at their strength of schedule. Look at anyone's strength of schedule. So who has easy matchups coming up. But the main thing is just, to me, would be locking down running back handcuffs at this point.
Okay. Before you get to the other scenario, Jeff, same question for you're in this scenario. Yep. What has been your thought process through this?
Well, okay, I want to speak to it from if I was maybe at a 7-5 type of record.
No, we're on the opposite direction. We are on the Jeff.
You want me to speak only about 10-2s?
Yes, we'll go back to the other scenario in a second.
All right. Well, I hope I don't forget my thought, but yeah. So for my strategy at this point is certainly I feel I can look out at matchups and try to build. Or bring guys on my bench who may have favorable matchups in future weeks, in particular as I look at the playoffs and our playoffs. So I can look to maybe pull them in. The other thing that I'm looking to do is I totally hear what Landon's saying about kind of covering your butt a little bit when it comes to handcuffing your stud running backs. But while Jonathan Taylor is a stud, I don't see a clear-cut path as far as Hines, Mack. They're both going to be out there, and I think, I'll probably lose out on because I don't have any money left at this point. So I actually look at it from a different approach because, that's going to be split, that backfield. So I don't look at it as a premium handcuff, somebody that I need to have on my roster. Yeah. If I had, say, like a Joe Mixon, I probably would have wanted to make sure I locked up Samaje Perine. Right. But that's why I ended up recently picking up Samaje Perine, because I'm actually looking to use my last bench spot, my roster spot for those guys like A.J. Dillon, Samaje Perine, because if that stud goes down in a backfield, all of a sudden I'm locked in with what's going to be a clear-cut path to a premium running back. Right. So that's the way I look to build out my roster this late in the season. Now, it completely varies from the beginning when I want as much depth as I possibly can. I don't want to hold on to handcuffs or backups if I don't have to. I definitely want to look to make sure I have as much depth that I can cycle in and out, because as we've seen all year this year, people get injured pretty regularly. You never know what's going to happen. And so I try to build out a roster that I can kind of plug and play any given week. And I never pay attention to the bye weeks. I just kind of let it fall where it may. And maybe during the draft I will, but once the season goes, I never look ahead into what's going on with their buys until
you look at bye weeks during the draft.
I'll try to take a peek. I'll try to take a peek sometimes at the bye. So, if I have a stud wide receiver, I want to make sure that I don't have a second wide receiver, my number 2 wide receiver that matches up with the same bye week as the number 1.
What about you, Grossman? Do you factor into bye weeks at all?
I usually don't, and then after I'm done with the draft, I look back and go, "Fuck, they're all on bye in week 7."
Yeah, but then you just that week 7 is just a loss. Then you have everyone.
But it doesn't have to be. That's
like
the thing. It doesn't have to be. Never take a loss. Never just take a loss.
Jeff, before we turn to the 7-5, and I'll let you go first on that first. You have Buffalo, so it's like a solid defense, but are you thinking at this point about getting a second defense, or have you looked to see Buffalo's going against X in the first round of the playoffs, and can I find anybody who has a better matchup that I'd actually rather play?
No, I did. I actually was considering picking up Miami, but I didn't want to hold on to them through a bye week next week. So definitely, they have a very favorable schedule going forward, and that's.
I think I actually have Miami.
You do have them. And why you're still playing and picking up guys off of the waivers, I don't understand.
It's actually very frustrating. But
Spoiler, man.
I'm doing the same thing in my other league. I'm pissing so many.
So annoying. It's so once playoffs hits though, you guys can't do it, right? Didn't we establish that?
I believe that was established.
Yeah, once playoffs, it's only the playoff teams that can pick up off waivers. So as it should be. But I've certainly tried to look out in the future as far as defenses go, but I've kind of looked at Buffalo's schedule, and I'm pretty happy with how they're going to position as well.
Yeah,
defense is so much of luck, at the same time too. Yeah, how many times do you drop a defense thinking they have a bad matchup and they go out there and they just put up 22 points?
Yeah, especially this season, it seems insane. All right, looking at that 7-5, fighting for the playoffs, Jeff. Please.
Yeah, that's exactly right. I mean, you're fighting for the playoffs at this point, so every week has to count. It has to matter. You can't. In my opinion, you can't be holding guys in a position just based off of future matchups because the future isn't guaranteed for you, right? So you have to look at you got to play this win now mentality. Pick up guys who are going to have value in a given week, as opposed to just kind of letting something ride out, hoping that it might happen. Because those roster spots are just too valuable.
Right. Landon.
I agree. I think it just you got to look at strength of schedule and see if there's a tight end on waivers or something like that, or whatever the case may be, that someone has a really good matchup and they could blow up that week, and hopefully you take that for a victory.
Right. Okay. Cool. All right. Let's look at last week's matchups. And I will say before we get into actually what happened, Landon is pulling away a little bit in our pick'em competition. So last week, Jeff, you went. That sounded a little too much like an old face. Jeff, you went 2-3. Landon, you went 4-1, and I went 3-2. Overall, Landon, you are 30-15. I am 28-17, and Jeff is 25-20.
I gotta start taking myself, I guess.
Yeah, well, you have been.
Yeah, you've gone.
I guess you did.
The last 2 weeks, I
tried to reverse jinx. Yeah,
I did.
All right, and we will look at that first matchup. I have changed my name to Antonio Brown is dead to me versus Devontae's Inferno. Both of us had shit weeks, but yours was less shit. Mm-hmm. Landon, Jeff, and I. So this question, to give the viewers some insight into where the questions come from, I try to write these questions out at least a day ahead of time, and they often are useless by the time we get to this. So I'll still ask the question. Jeff and I had the Javonte Williams versus Melvin Gordon matchup. First, did you get as excited as I did? Because I know you have Javonte in another league when Melvin Gordon went out on that first carry.
Oh yeah. I get Schefter alerts, and I saw that on my phone, and you never want to be happy for an injury,
Sure. Sure.
but when you
Sure.
see that, you get a little giddy when
I
I
was
Six
very
to
good.
12, 6-12, real quick.
Oh yeah,
And
absolutely.
then immediately Melvin Gordon's back in, and you're like, what
Yeah.
the? God
That was
damn it.
quick.
So my thought on that is no.
yeah.
I mean, Melvin Gordon knows that he's most likely not going to be re-signed
No,
going
I
into
can't
next
imagine.
year, right? Like, I mean,
Right.
and so he's playing for his job next
He's
year.
doing it. He's had a great year.
He has.
Yes.
He's been solid. He was never like bad enough. Like Buffalo, I mean, Denver was just looking to make sure that they have the pieces in place moving forward for their
Sure.
long-term future. And I feel like Melvin Gordon, had it been maybe anybody else behind him, would have kind of been packed it in that week and been like, you know what, I'm going to sit this one out. But he's looking like he knows Javonte Williams is breathing right down his neck,
Right.
and he's actually starting to outsnap him a little bit these last couple of weeks.
It's heavy breathing.
Yeah, so he's like, I got to get back out there. Like, I got to take this stinger, whatever it might be.
One football player to another.
So that was my thought process on why we saw him get back in the game.
I like that. I think you're probably right. And Denver doesn't care because he's gone after this year. So if he wants to run himself into the ground, Gordon is now doubtful. But my question still stands. Do we think Javonte, even if he has this game to himself, if Gordon comes back afterwards, are they going to go back to the 50-50 split? Or do you think if Williams has a good enough game that they'll kind of bench Gordon and let Williams fly?
Yeah.
If they go back to the 50-50 split.
I agree. Yeah.
And it might be 60-40. It might be 60-40, right? Javonte could have certainly earned something.
Jeff, this is a Landon question.
I'm
Can
sorry.
you let Landon answer it
okay.
first?
Please, Landon, go ahead.
I agree with
mute.
Geoff for sure. But yeah, you guys mentioned, I mean, Gordon's been playing well this year, so there's really no reason that would change unless he is like out for a while with injury, or for some reason he starts fumbling and gets benched, which I don't think that's going to happen at this point. But yeah, it's upsetting because everyone wants to see the Javonte Williams breakout, but I don't see it happening, unfortunately, because when you see like some of these stats with Javonte Williams is just like unreal what he's doing. That he has the most rushing yards in the NFL among players with 0 starts. And then he has currently missed tackle rate of any player since 2006. So he just is, he's just insane. Yeah. He's going to go pretty high next year in our draft.
Yeah,
definitely.
Next year will be fun to watch him, hopefully.
The other thing here is, so I think you kind of mentioned it a little bit as well, like the liability for an injury to Javonte Williams versus Melvin Gordon, who's not going to be there next year. Like that's a big one. Now, granted, they're still a chance of making the playoffs. Yeah, they're certainly in the hunt. So, they probably would like to put their best player out there. However, you can't risk the future. I think if you got 3 other teams in your division that you're so tight, you know what I mean? Like you got to kind of play both guys, I feel like.
Yeah. Jeff, I was going to ask you a question about Russ, but you raised a good point there. So Najee is kind of in that scenario of you don't want to risk that player and their future, and Pittsburgh is out of it.
Yeah,
basically, he's had a massive workload, and I think we've seen kind of him hit that wall.
He's kind of started to come down.
Yeah.
Too,
Do
right?
you think Pittsburgh ends up kind of sitting him, not like not playing him at all, but like reducing his role significantly?
Yeah, I would see it's very possible we could see a 70-30 type of split. And, that 30% is divvied up to 3 other backs in their backfield. So it doesn't even matter like who it is. But no, I would see that happening, possibly playing out. I mean, there's just no point. Aside from making sure that these guys, if they have bonuses for their contracts, these teams are really generous about making sure of letting them.
Bonuses like that?
They can sometimes be tied into like a rookie deal, I feel like. So yeah, I think that we could look to see that. They could look to make that happen, whether it be number of touchdowns or yards or whatever that might be. So it's just something to consider. But yeah, certainly see them maybe considering taking a step back in his
Yeah.
workload.
And we'll ask the Russ question anyways. Do you think he's still bothered by his thumb? I think you
Yeah.
cut him this week, right?
I did, yeah. I dropped him for Taysom Hill.
Yep.
Because what I
Who is
saw
now
was
also bothered.
yeah,
the
he's got a
same finger
hand injury as well. Yeah, I
The
know.
exact same one.
But he runs. Russ,
Right.
in my opinion, yes, Russ certainly seems to be bothered by this hand injury, just given the fact that he was kind of missing wide open targets.
Way wide open.
Yeah. There was Gerald Everett, I think, on one that he threw 5 yards outside of him. There was the other one to Penny, right? Is their third wide receiver in the middle of the field. He was wide open and he was processing. He was processing and he didn't even see him. Like he just went to his 1-2 read and just got rid of the ball. So he's not playing at the same level that we normally, think of Russell Wilson playing with. That I think that's just because of the hand. He doesn't want to get pressured. He doesn't want to have a helmet come in close to his hand again to where that could happen. The other thing that I think about Russell Wilson, I don't think he's going to be in Seattle next year. They're not going to renew his any sort of contract at this point. So, I almost feel like he has one foot out the door at this point. He just doesn't seem to have the same.
Is he a free agent after this year?
He doesn't seem to have the same type of enthusiasm, in my opinion. So, he will look to probably get signed elsewhere.
Okay. Question for
and
you.
if Aaron Rodgers goes someplace, it's very possible he could be a Green Bay Packer.
That'd be.
Oh,
I wouldn't like that.
Aaron Rodgers goes to Denver. Yeah, we'll see.
Yeah.
Pittsburgh.
That'd be good too. Okay, last question on this one. So I had picked up Hilliard right before the game because McNichols was out with a concussion and Hilliard went off. But they're on a bye week now, and then you would expect McNichols to come back. And Deontay Foreman had a good game too. So do we think Hilliard was just a one-time thing, or is there any chance that he becomes a bigger thing the rest of the season?
I think McNichols has not been anything special. So I don't think McNichols is just automatically going to go back and take Hilliard's place. I mean, McNichols has had one good game this year. We had 8 catches for 74 yards. That was his highest and only double-digit fantasy point game at 12.5 points. He's never been over 24 rushing yards in a game. He's only had 1 touchdown this year. So I don't think he's the type of player that's just automatically is back. I think Hilliard possibly took his spot, and I see more of a Foreman and Hilliard committee than anything at this point.
Yeah, it sounds gross, but
it does.
Could be good things. All right, next.
Hey, so Grossman, just real quick
I'd like to
about
touch
your
on
team.
that.
Oh, go ahead.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Yeah, no, I just want to touch on that really quick. So
Please.
McNichols is the receiving back, okay, and so I feel like he's going to continue to, when he comes back, and he's out there, he's at least going to take away the receiving targets that we saw Hilliard get. And Foreman looked good. He got more snaps. Like he got, I think, 19, 20 snaps. Yeah, he was over 100 yards. Yeah. So 19, 20 yards. Like he is clearly the 1A in that backfield, right? So I just feel like Hilliard's production is going to be very streaky. I don't think it's somebody you can really lean on to be, maybe flex 2 at best, I guess, right? But nothing maybe more than that.
Yeah, no, I think I agree with you. Landon, were you going to say something?
Yeah. Well, what are your thoughts on Kyle Pitts at this point?
Oh, he fucking sucks. Yeah. Well, what's funny is, so I listened to.
Would you drop him?
No, the Harris football podcast. Have you guys ever listened to that?
No, I haven't.
So he's kind of a douche, but he watches all of the tape. And so there's all the commentary around Pitts is everyone's double teaming him. He's constantly being shadowed. And so every week Harris is like, I watched it. That's not the case at all. This is simply the case of you have a tight end, and we all know that tight ends take a long time to get. Yeah. And so I think there's no one else out there. Like I've looked at the waivers to see if there's anybody. There's no one who has like an upside, but Pitts is it's dreadful putting him out there every week.
So yeah, tight ends typically take about 3 years to develop into an NFL like elite player, like the Tony Gonzalez's. They don't come out of college. It's just so much different transitioning into the NFL where there's a lot more blocking. You're protecting your franchise quarterback a lot more time. So it's just so much different than like the college game where they would go out and just dominate. This basketball type like figure out there, just towering over some
Yeah.
poor linebacker.
It's really a shame. I mean, we'll never know, obviously, but like if Calvin Ridley had been playing all year, what the difference could have been. But oh well.
Right. Well, hopefully Ridley's back next year. All right, next matchup. Schaefer put up a dud, and Walter destroyed him. All right, question for you both, and it's a long one, so I apologize. Lamar had his worst game of the year. It may have been the worst game of his career. He had 4 interceptions, no TDs, about 220 yards total, counting rushing. This season in particular has felt like there's no such thing as a guaranteed top end QB. Mahomes, Stafford, Brady, Herbert, Burrow, all of them have had more than one bad game. You also have long lasting injuries to consistent players like Wilson and Murray. Having all these QBs feel unsafe feels like a new issue. But I think we were coming into this season thinking you can't go that like late round QB anymore. Kyler, if you get him, or Allen, if you get him, is going to give you this huge benefit, and that hasn't occurred and kind of has actually reversed. So do you guys think how do you guys think this plays out next year's draft? Do you think it goes back to kind of people not putting as much value towards the QBs and thinking, especially in like a 10-team league, that you can wait to spend money and still be able to get, like a Tannehill or someone like that?
No, I mean, look, I'm going to jump in this here first, if you don't mind, Landon, because we're going to have value to the QB next year because we're going to have a 2 QB league, right? So all of a sudden, we're going to see more value come from the QB position. That being said, 2 years ago, or I guess it would have been last year's draft, Josh Allen went for like $1, right? Maybe something he would have gone, a lot of leagues, he was going 14, 15 round, and he goes out and he's like the number 1 QB. So it just goes to show you that there's so much value at the back end. I picked up Burrow off the waivers, to be basically my starter this year. Granted, there's other guys that I would like to have over him, but it just goes to show you that you can always find value at the QB position, especially in our league. So I don't think that as far as going into next year, I think if we left everything the same, we would see a devaluation in the QB rankings or in the QBs.
Okay. Yeah. Lennon?
I agree with everything Geoff said. I mean, just the last
next.
No, just real. I mean,
the question was longer than the answer.
The past 3 years, we've been like really spoiled with quarterbacks. You had 3 years ago was the year of Patrick Mahomes. Then 2 years ago was Lamar Jackson. Then last year was Josh Allen. So you just kind of like expect that to happen at this point. And maybe what's happened in the last 3 years is more abnormal and we're just going back to more normal. But yes, I agree with this. I mean, if we do go a 2 QB league, obviously the value goes up for everyone. But if we stay the same, the value, I think, Mahomes was only $38 this year, which is still crazy, but he went for 54 and 50 the last 2 years. So yes, I think the value is going down.
Yeah, we'll see how much Moreau spends on him next year. Lennon for Schaefer. Kittle, are you concerned about his output, given that I think we all felt like he was a safe floor after his injury? He came back from the injury, and he put up a dud.
Yeah, the answer is no.
Okay.
I mean,
these are really short answers. I like this.
Everyone, he had a bad game. He's had a couple. One game with 3.7, one game with 1.8. But, even Kelsey has some bad games. Andrews had a couple of bad games. Obviously, you're not finding a better tight end on waivers than George Kittle. So you just got to chalk this up as a bad game.
Yep. Jeff, for Walter's team, with Zach Wilson back, Elijah Moore had a decent number of targets, but his output was rather pedestrian. I assume Zach Wilson is going to continue to start unless he gets injured. So is the Elijah Moore sort of the upside there? Is he kind of irrelevant for fantasy the rest of the year?
No, he's not irrelevant for fantasy the rest of this year. He's absolutely, like, the upside is totally there. Like, I think he's a really high ceiling player that Danza should be happy to have on his team. So, last week in particular, I thought he was going to have a good game. I put him into my pick six lineup, right, and it just was one of those things that kind of surprised us all, maybe in that particular game and how that played out. So, yeah, look, I mean, the guys are going to have down weeks. Corey Davis came back last week, right? So that certainly eats a little bit into maybe that target share, but he's clearly shown that he's a talent out there, and the Jets are trending in a positive direction.
Yeah. We'll see next year. Hopefully they'll be able to take a step up here. Next matchup, Moreau took it to Mr. Fender. Not very close here. Jeff Moreau had Waddle on the bench, but he put up some very good numbers and is very impressive as a rookie. I think he's probably the most impressive rookie wide receiver.
Absolutely.
Is this sustainable this year, considering we have Devontae Parker coming back, and let's assume Devontae is healthy the rest of the year?
Yeah, I mean that's exactly what it is. I mean, so going into the season, they were going to have Gesicki, Waddle, Parker, and Fuller, right? So
Fuller,
yeah. Having all those mouths to feed, like there's no way that Waddle would have had this type of season. So like a lot of the passes that he's catching are kind of on the shorter side, right? He's not like
he's a slot receiver.
Yeah, exactly. He's not like a busting it, for 40 yards or greater or anything like that. So that's why he's having, I think, the success that he is just because there's really nobody else who's out there to catch the ball, so other than him and Gesicki. And you look at what Gesicki's doing, right? So and I don't think. I'm not a real Tua believer, like in the sense that he'd be able to spread the ball around to any more than like say 2 targets out there, right? Okay. And so I fully would expect this to continue. He's obviously established some trust at this point with Tua, which is always good moving forward. And Miami has a really tasty schedule as well. Okay. So yeah. Tasty. Landon, you got that schedule?
Big tasty.
Big tasty schedule.
No, I don't.
I'm gonna pull it
Landon,
right now.
For Fender, Pittman has his 3rd game in a row with single-digit fantasy output, although I think he was pretty close to some big receptions last week.
Yeah.
But this was against a Tampa Bay defense that is great against the run and terrible against the pass. So what should we expect from Pittman moving forward this season?
All right, let me go ahead and just give you a schedule.
Ignore the question.
Here's what the Dolphins have. Giants. Okay, they go Giants, Jets, Saints, Titans, and then they got the Patriots. But that's pretty tasty as far as a wide receiver is concerned. Like,
yeah, the Giants
maybe
have
medium
a little
tasty.
Bit of defense. Medium tasty, not big tasty. Medium.
Who's big tasty? All right, go on. Sorry.
Landon, something about Pittman.
Yeah. He had a pretty good hot streak for a little bit. He had 6 really good games. He's still the number 1 wide receiver on his team. He's still got 10 targets this past week. I don't think it's someone, maybe a little bit of concern that he's not going to be what he once was, but I would still keep him in your starting lineup and hope for the best. And I think he's more of kind of a wide receiver 2 for the rest of the year at this point.
Okay. Yeah, he's had 1 touchdown, I think, over the last 5 games.
Yeah, he hasn't done pretty.
Your
he
boy
hasn't done
keeps
well
stealing
lately.
all of the touchdowns.
Yeah. When your running back gets 5 in one game, I mean,
there's not much to go around.
Absolutely not. And I think Reich has maybe started to just kind of say, look, if we're going to make the playoffs and be a contender, we got to lean a little bit more on Jonathan Taylor at this point. I think that's what we're kind of seeing.
It's working.
Yeah. Oh, 100%. Absolutely.
Yeah.
He's pushing his chips in a little bit, pushing his chips into the center of the table a little bit.
Another upset. Admore continues to play the role of the spoiler. Good for him, taking it to BJV. All right, another long-winded question, so I apologize. Question for you both. CMC got hurt in this one and is now out for the rest of the season. First, how many RBs do you think will go for like a higher price than CMC in next year's fantasy football auction draft?
You or me, Landon?
I'll go. I mean, I think at this point now, more even I said it before, Taylor was higher than CMC.
Why are you always hating on Taylor, man?
Unbelievable.
I just don't get it.
What else does he have to do?
I think Taylor is in a tier by himself at this point.
Under CMC, we get it.
Under CMC, yeah, a few levels below CMC. No, I think Taylor is in a tier by himself.
Okay.
Derrick Henry, I think he needs to come back this year and show that the foot injury wasn't that big of a deal. If he can,
let's assume he doesn't come back.
Okay, if he doesn't come back, then I think
he'll be back for the Titans playoff run.
Yeah, I'm not talking like
that's like the goal.
Yeah.
Okay. So let's just say he doesn't come back. Then So then I say Taylor goes for more. I would say probably Austin Eckler goes for more.
Okay.
You can make the argument for. I think CMC will be kind of in the same tier as like a Joe Mixon.
Okay.
Najee Harris, Kamara, and Cook. So I think two players will go for more than CMC-ish. Henry possible if he comes back.
Okay.
So I don't have all the players that I would list above him, but I'm going to say it's going to be more in like the 8 range. Like he'll be like the 8th running back off the board type of thing. And here's the reason why I say this: where did Saquon Barkley go this year?
He was probably like the 10th.
There you go, right? And he's been injured the last 2 years. So why would we go ahead and put CMC in a different type of category? I get the production, but Barkley is just as effective when healthy as a runner. But we just haven't seen it.
I think the reason is even like the few games this year and last year where CMC came in, it was 30 points. Yeah. Barkley had a bunch of like 7-pointers. Like he didn't like immediately hit the high end that CMC was able to hit. But it'll be interesting for sure. All right, next question along the same lines. Again, this is the long-winded one. All right, when we get towards the end of the season, we're going to do a whole bunch of looking back at this season and what went wrong in the draft and looking at next year's draft. Does any strategy change? But I did want to talk about it a little bit about that now with the CMC stuff. So we've talked over and over again about BJV's strategy of spending a shit ton of money on the top two running backs. Thank you. Words. And the risk that he's taking because of how much RBs get hurt. But there's been injuries and busts across all positions. We have Ridley and Allen Robinson, Waller. No one. I mean, I don't think there's any safe position. So give me your predictions on the following 2 things. One, does BJV go back to the well and spend all of his money on whomever the top 2, Jonathan Taylor would be one, running backs next year? So let's answer that one first. Yes, he does.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's the easy way. I didn't think he was going to do it
this year.
No, it's the easy way out when you go into draft. Like,
so you just think he's lazy?
Yeah, I do.
Okay.
I mean, I could win with these. I could win with this team. I could.
With what team?
His team. Like
even if you get the same injuries,
the team that he had drafted. Yes, because working the waiver wire is probably one of the biggest keys to fantasy success throughout.
So why didn't you take the same strategy approach as he did?
When players, when players zig, you got to zag, and so I went actually the wide receiver route this year a little bit with a stud running back. That was my plan going into the draft all along.
Okay. And then the second one is, do you imagine the prices across the RB position, because it's not just the top end RBs, it's all of these RBs, to decrease because of how much RBs have been hit by injuries? And I think part of that may be the additional game of the season. Do you think that the pricing changes, assuming again that we're not going to QB, like we stay the same there?
Yeah, I think it certainly could. Right? There's a strategy out there called zero RBs. Right? And
talk about that.
Oh, go ahead, please.
No.
Landon, you go first.
No.
I'm gonna mute Jeff. Go ahead, Landon. You go.
No, don't mute him. Yeah, I mean, I was going to say the same type of thing. I mean, there's strategies out there for the serious, fantasy players. It's called zero RB or hero RB, kind of what Geoff did, I would say, with the hero RB is you go with one running back and then stack up at other positions. But yeah, I mean, just the way that this year has been with the injuries, you have more teams that are doing committee backfields. So I think the days of the high-end running backs are kind of coming to an end as we see it, and fantasy football is changing right before our eyes.
Okay.
Yeah, there's just a lot more teams that are playing committees, right? We see that regularly too. And it sucks, but there's a lot of these 60-40 splits, and there's certain guys that are getting, the passing down work, like the JD McKissick, Antonio Gibson type of plays, right? And it just brings a lot more value, I think, to that second RB now that we hadn't seen in the past.
But does that then mean that
So it devalues the premium running back.
But would it
might be in that-
devalue someone like Jonathan Taylor who doesn't have a second running back, or Joe Mixon who are those guys going to be the ones going for $70 next year instead of CMC and Cook?
You would see, yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
The Najee Harrises are going to go for Najee Harris's, Taylor's, Javonte Williams.
I'm so excited.
Yeah, I'm spending 80 on Javonte.
Austin
Eckler.
Austin Eckler, another one. So, those are the guys that go for, I think, that $50, $60, $70 range.
Okay. What do you think, Grossman?
I think we're going to see no one being willing to spend really crazy prices on any of the high level, whether it's RB, wide receiver, and that's just going to increase all, like the players that you would normally right now get for $20, you're going to have to spend 30 on. Like it's all going to be grouped in this like 30 to 40-ish range. And people are going to be surprised by it, I think. So I'm going into the draft next year thinking that and seeing if I could figure out a way to take advantage of it. I'm probably way off, and BJV for like the 14th year in a row will choose the two top end RBs.
How much does Cooper Kupp go for?
I would say 45.
I'd say
Somewhere in there.
than that maybe, but yeah.
Yeah, that's exactly what I was going to say.
Somewhere around there. And he's worth it. I mean, he's fucking awesome. All right.
Not this week. Not this week.
Not this upcoming week?
Not this week.
Oh, he's playing them.
Oh, okay. I was like, I don't think you're right, but okay. Child plays you destroyed Roland.
Destroyed.
Are you like, did these victories mean anything? Are you just hoping not to have like a, like 1-2 wins? Like, were you happy about getting a victory?
Yeah, dude. I
just,
just, I'm mathematically eliminated. I'm pretty sure,
Yes.
but yes.
Yes, you are.
It feels good to win finally.
Okay.
Yes.
And it's not like we're going for draft picks.
Is that 2 in a row?
2 out of my last 3.
It's almost just as good.
That's nice.
Landon, what are your takeaways from Chubb's disappointing week? He lost snaps to Hunt, but Hunt didn't actually do anything. So I'm curious.
Yeah, I mean, it was a bad game for both of them. So you kind of just, you can't win them all. Chubb is pretty amazing when he does for most games. I mean, he's played in 9 games this year. He's averaging just short of 100 yards a game. So yeah, it's just a bad game. But he's one of those guys. I regret drafting. Unfortunately, he's much better in real life than he is for fantasy, especially even just we're in a half PPR. But he doesn't catch the ball at all. Yeah. So I mean, you need to have him score 100 yards and score a touchdown every game, or else he's just kind of worthless.
Yeah, great player, but yeah, I hear you. Jeff, for Roland's, Higgins finally blew up while Chase had yet another bad fantasy output. Is there enough passing work here for both of these guys to be good? Because they're both very good receivers. And if not, is it what's the blame? Is it just there's too many mouths to feed because you also have Boyd, or is it just that they're forcing the ball into Mixon's hand?
I mean, screw Boyd. I mean, nothing is going through Boyd, I guess. But I think it's honestly because of Mixon and the success that they're having running the ball. And so there's really not a whole lot of need to force the ball down the field. And I'm kind of starting to wonder if that's why I picked up Taysom Hill, because I saw a little bit more upside than, say, Joe Burrow, given the fact of what's going on with their passing. Now, as far as Chase versus Higgins goes, I feel like that's more of a defensive scheme. Chase went off earlier in the season, and we're starting to see defensive scheme a little bit better. Maybe, how they want to play him, I guess, which has left Higgins open as a result, right? Because obviously teams are going to just go off the game tape from previous weeks and say, well, we're not going to get burned by the 70-yard touchdown pass that Chase might have, so we'll go ahead and cover him with one of our cornerbacks and a safety over the top, right? And so then that just leaves Higgins one-on-one on the outside to where they can get him the ball. So that's kind of my thought process as to what we've seen this year with the Cincinnati Bengals. But I would have to imagine that we're gonna see Higgins start to blow up, and it'll start to revert. Let's cover Higgins, right? And we'll start to see maybe Chase get a little bit more run here late in the year.
Yeah. Who is your rookie of the year on the offensive side at this point in the season? We have Chase, Waddle, Devonta Smith, Najee. I'm sure I'm missing others. Give it some thought.
Is Eli Mitchell a rookie?
Elijah, yes.
Is he?
Yes. He was drafted along with Trey Sermon.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, you're right. Yeah.
Yeah. He's up there.
Yeah, he's certainly up there too.
I'd say at this point it's probably Waddle.
Okay. I actually agree with you. I think it's Waddle as well. I think he has almost, obviously somebody has to throw him the ball, but he's pretty much put his team kind of back in some sort of hunt, whereas they were a 2-win team there for a little bit and they looked dead. Their defense has started to turn around a little bit, so their defense is playing real well.
Yeah, they got me the win this week, the big win I needed.
All right, we are on to pick six time.
Here we go.
Jeff once again lost pick six. The penalty from last week is that Jeff now has to do this segment with some sort of accent. Jeff, do you want to start us off with your QB?
Oh no! I don't want to play the QB.
What accent is this?
You don't like Mr. Han? Mr. Han, good.
Is he doing? Are we getting? Maybe we'll.
Funny guy. Funny. Moving on.
All right, Jeff, give us your QB.
I would like Mr. Tom Brady. That's combination. Excellent. Mr. Tom Brady.
Okay, we might end this part pretty quickly. Landon, who's your QB?
I went with the one and only Kirk Cousins versus the Detroit Lions.
I'm gonna give myself some Herb and go with Herbert, and hopefully that turns into blow up game. Jeff, I'm really hesitant to ask.
Here we go.
Who are your, maybe change the accent, and who are your running backs?
All right, so I'm going to go with Mr. Alexander Madison and Gibson.
Madison and Gibson? Did we all take Madison, by the way, Landon?
Yes.
Okay. Same. Who's your other one?
I went with the aforementioned Eli Mitchell.
Nice.
Against
He's going to blow
Seattle.
up.
Yes, I hope so.
I'm going to go with Javonte and Madison as well. Landon starts off with receivers.
I went with Mike Evans versus Atlanta and took a little bit of a risk here. I don't know if I like it or not, but Devonta Smith versus the Jets.
Okay. It's got a good matchup. Jeff, go ahead.
Hey, all right. So I'm going to go with Mr. Ayuk. Mr. Ayuk and Mr. Hunter Renfrow.
Oh, you stole Renfrow. I am also going Renfrow. I also think this is a Metcalf game. I am very not confident in this, but
no. Let me speak. I actually agree with you 100%. I think this is one of these games. Squeaky wheel gets the grease.
Yeah.
And so he's just going to get like 12 targets. So
I would hope so. The
yeah,
last
absolutely
game was insane. Tight ends. Landon.
Logan Thomas versus the Raiders.
Good one. Jeff. We don't have to do the
Oh, take him, Mr. Noah fan.
I don't know. Okay, that was the most recognizable one. I'm gonna go with Kittle. It's getting harder though. I will say it's getting harder to figure out. We don't have any sort of penalties, so we'll figure it out.
We'll think of
next week.
something.
Yeah. All right. Let's look at this week's matchups. Dun 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 dun. I don't know what that was.
A long episode.
Is it? We'll go fast. All right. We have some big matchups this week. Schaefer versus Devontae. Jeff, for Schaefer, would you go Sanders or Williams? I'm not even sure which Williams I was talking about.
Miles Sanders, I assume.
Yes. Oh, Mike Williams versus Sanders. Yeah.
Yeah, I actually like Sanders a lot in this matchup. I'd probably leave him in there.
Okay. Even though he's a little bit injured?
Yeah, I guess. I mean, see how it plays out. But yeah, I mean, they've really figured something out. And we don't even know if Jalen Hurts is going to play this week. That's the big thing, right? So if it's Minshew in there, I think they're going to maybe have to lean a little bit more on their running back game. So that's actually why in my other league I had Hurts and the guy that played Hill. So I was like, I got to throw Hill in there just in case Hurts doesn't play this week. So yeah, I like Sanders.
Okay. I feel, Jeff, did you just make a move on your team?
I had to pull. Yeah, I had to pull Melvin Gordon out there, given his doubtful tag, and I had to go ahead and throw in really my only other option, which is Damian Harris. I hate playing any sort of player against my defense, but I don't have anybody else that I can play.
I don't have a question then because
Ryan, I guess.
No.
Yeah.
I know. Yeah.
I don't really think you can. All right, we'll just skip Landon. You get the shaft.
Yeah.
Who wins this one?
This is a tough one. It's a lot of.
I'm gonna take myself.
Okay.
I mean, I should take Schaefer because I've been hot taking the other guy, and I've actually been winning, which is all that counts.
I do like that you have Foster Moreau in there.
Thanks, man.
Yeah, I'm going Geoff.
Thought that was a clever pickup. Ooh, can I make him my tight end this week?
Sure, whatever.
Can we do that? You okay with that?
That's fine. They haven't played yet.
Yeah, so take out Noah Fant, give me Foster Moreau.
All right. I'm going to go with Jeff as well. Next matchup. This one is probably less close. Lannon versus Walter. Walter's already gotten a couple players playing. Zeke had a shit game, which I think all of us should have expected. Landon, for Walter, if Henderson doesn't play, are you starting Elijah Moore or an injured Odell Beckham? And let's assume Odell does play.
Oh fuck! I don't want Moreau. I don't want Moreau in there because I have Renfro. So just give me Fant. Just give me Fant. All right, we'll just leave it as is. My bad. All right, go back to the question.
Anyway.
I know. Whatever penalty you guys want me to do, I'll slap myself with the belt. Anyways.
Yeah, I would. To answer your question, I'd probably go Odell.
Okay. Who wins this one? Let me scroll up.
Yeah, even though Zeke had a bad game, I still say Walter wins.
I mean,
my two flex spots really blow.
You're going with
if Henderson doesn't play, then I put in Sony Michel.
No, I think Hilton is a Texan killer.
That's what the question. Oh, I'm sorry. That's what the question was going to be. Jeff, did I ask you a question? I did not. I'm just fucking Jeff. For Lannon, assuming Henderson is out, pick two between Sony Michel, T.Y. Hilton, and Galladay.
I like Hilton and Michelle.
Okay.
Hilton is a Houston Texan killer.
Yeah, that's why I picked him up.
He's like 47 years old.
I know.
No. Give me Child, please.
I'm going to go Child, please, as well.
Oh, wow.
Landon?
Yeah, I went with Walter.
Okay. You're just trying to keep that record clean.
Got a lot of
Antonio Brown is dead to me versus Big Tasty. This is pretty much the end of my season if I lose.
Gotta win.
No roster decisions really for either team. So we're gonna play a game of who scores more. Who scores more? Najee or Fournette?
Najee against Baltimore, Fournette against Atlanta. I
So
go Fournette.
Tom Brady week right here. Give me Najee.
Okay. Who scores more, Barkley or Javonte Williams?
Javonte.
Go Javonte.
Who scores more, Brady or Mahomes?
Brady.
Who scores more,
Brady.
McLaurin or Waddle?
Waddle.
McLaurin.
Oh, okay. Who wins this
I
one?
guess defense they've been pretty good against the pass, but go on. Sorry.
Okay. Who wins this one? No one has an S, so I don't know what sound you're doing right now.
Sorry, Grossman. I'm going Moreau.
Okay. Jeff?
I'm looking.
It's a good match. It is a really good matchup.
It's
tight.
He has. I think I have more talented players, but he has really good matchups for Devonta Smith. And
Javonte being the starter really helps your lineup. I mean, obviously, but
yeah, I mean, it saved me. I have so many damagers right now.
Yeah,
Devontae Parker might not even play.
Yeah, I don't love Devontae Parker in that spot, but give me. Yeah. You got some bench depth. One of your defenses.
Everyone's injured.
One of your defenses sliding in there.
Yeah, he got rid of 4 defenses this
That'd
week.
be amazing. That'd be amazing. Can I throw in my other defenses?
I have no idea. Give me Big Tasty.
I'm gonna go with myself.
I do like you in this spot.
Nope,
I think Brady's gonna have a big day.
You already voted for Tasty. You like that Tasty.
I do like Tasty.
Matt versus BJV, another very important game. I think if BJV loses this one, he is pretty much done for. Matt, though, is sliding. I think this might be the first week that he's out of the playoffs, like in his current standing. So
yeah, we all saw this coming.
Yeah, we did, but rest in peace. Jeff for BJV, Logan, Logan Thomas or Gesicki?
I have to leave Gesicki in there. He's been balling out, man.
He had a
Not
0.
lately.
He had a goose egg. I understand. It was like I know. I picked him like
Landon. Who are you going with on that?
I'd go Thomas.
Yeah, me too. Landon for Fender. If Odell doesn't play, I just make up hypotheticals. Who would you play, Van Jefferson or Renfro?
Renfro.
Okay.
Oh.
That's why I said if Odell doesn't play. So Van Jefferson's sorry. I should have changed the order of operations with that question.
Yeah.
Does it change anything or
That's
no?
tough.
That is a tough one. Yeah, I think they're both good plays.
Yeah. I wish they weren't on his team.
Yeah. I don't.
Are you sticking with Renfro?
Yeah, I'd probably stick with the safer Renfro.
Jeff, what do you think?
I would probably take Van Jefferson if Odell doesn't play.
Okay. Who wins this one?
Vincent Kamara.
I go BJV.
Yeah, I'm going to go BJV. He holds on to Williams the entire season.
I know.
He just gets lucky at the end.
He probably didn't even know that he had him.
No, I'm sure he didn't. He's like, oh, look at this. I got him. Last matchup, kind of irrelevant. Landon for Crispy. Pick 2, Knox, Hawkinson, and AJ Green.
Knox and Hawkinson.
Okay. Jeff for Admore, no roster decisions. I did want to ask, this is kind of an open question to both of you guys if you have any thoughts. All right, so he has New England's defense, which is an amazing defense. They have a tough matchup because it's Buffalo. It's on Monday, though, and I don't know if you've seen the weather, but the weather, might be the first game that's really impacted by the weather. It's supposed to be like 20 to 40 mile per hour winds, snowy rain.
Yeah.
So if that weather does come to fruition, does that make New England's defense a riskier play? Like, you're not changing it, obviously, but does that hurt the defense when the weather is that bad, or is it maybe not as big of a deal?
No, it helps it. It helps it. Absolutely.
Well, so the reason I say
the worst thing that you could hear from a forecasting standpoint is high winds. Right. They can always run the ball in snow. We've seen LaShawn McCoy just go out and ball out and have his own 3-4 touchdown game, right? In the snow, and rain doesn't seem to matter. I mean, the ball can get wet. It actually gets more adhesive. Like, your gloves get more adhesive, like the wide receivers. So they have no problem spinning it through the rain. It's the winds that throw the ball off. They can actually move the ball. Same thing with field goals, kickers. We see the same thing all the time with these guys missing because of the wind. So that's a defensive dream right there, is to have high winds.
Yeah. The reason I ask, and I haven't looked at any research here, so you guys
It's
are
their
probably right.
wet dream.
The
Ooh.
secondary cornerback safeties, they're backpedaling, and backpedaling in wet, nasty weather is you're more likely to slip than the actual receiver going forward. And if you slip and the receiver gets free, there's an 80-yard touchdown that's all of a sudden available.
But not every passing route is going to be just go, straight. There's going to be cuts there. So those wide receivers, they're going to be on ice a little bit too when they're making their cut, when they're putting that foot in the ground to try to make that turn. So it's the same thing. I think it works both ways.
Yeah, no, I agree. It'll be a fun game to watch. I think. Who wins? Does anybody care?
I was looking at it. I mean, Dak had a bad game. Cooper had a bad game.
And Murray and Hopkins, I think, are on track to be back.
Yeah, but Robinson might not
Robinson,
play.
I believe, is going to play.
How do I say crispy taco? And then, of course, Murray's not going to show up. So
yeah, I'm still going to go crispy
taco.
All right, I'll go crispy as well. All right, well, that does it for this week. We will see next week. I'm thinking that it'll separate a little bit between these teams that are fighting, but yeah, and then as we move towards the end of the season, we'll try to do a lot more, like I mentioned, segments around looking back at this season, looking forward to next season, so that those teams that are completely out of it have something to listen for. So yeah, we'll have some guests as well. Guys, been a pleasure.
Always.
Good luck out there.
Peace.
Peace.